Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of OSCE Talk. In this episode, we're going to be covering how to take a structured history from a patient presenting with a headache. And this is one of the most common symptoms that you find in medicine. It can be very complex and there's many things that can cause a headache, but we're going to work through it slowly. Most headaches that you'll come across are benign. It's very rare that you will pick up a tumor or cancer, but it always has to be in the back of your mind. And so we're going to run through some of the red flags as well. So for this type of history, headaches are always pain. So we're going to be using the Socrates, and Matthew's going to take us through that now.
Yep, so we've obviously gone through Socrates before, but we're just going to link different parts of Socrates to sort of our differentials as we go through. And I think it's nice to start to think of differentials as you're taking the headache history, because there's a lot of really sort of giveaway features. So the first thing we're going to ask is, where is the site? For things like a migraine, that's usually going to be on one side of the head, often beside the eyes, whereas a tension headache is often described as like a band across the forehead, so like bilateral and frontal. Then more sort of worrying headaches can often be sort of near the occipital region, especially things like subarachnoid hemorrhage. However, it is important to say that people can get headaches around the occipital region from things like, stress and tension and back issues. So that's always important to think about. Then we move on to onset. Did it come on suddenly or gradually? Well, if it came on all of a sudden, and people often say it's like being hit in the back of the head or having a very sort of sudden onset, that could be more worrying. We'd be thinking about things like a subarachnoid hemorrhage in that case. Often things like a migraine come on over a period of hours, sometimes even can take up to a day for a migraine to sort of come on and go away. Things that would involve raised intracranial pressure would often be kind of a slow and progressive onset. It might be worse on waking and might make them feel quite sick. So the onset's very important. In terms of describing the pain, it's important to say that migraines themselves can be incredibly sore. People might feel like, they are having stabbing behind their eyes, and they might feel very sick and unable to do, their normal activity. Character can be very important. So what kind of words are they using to describe the pain? I think it's important to say that obviously everyone's sensation of pain is different. So people might feel that the migraine is incredibly sore. It might make them unable to do their normal daily activities. They might feel really sick with it. So, just taking that into account, often the migraine is said to be sort of throbbing, pulsating, often on one side of the head, and quite often behind the eye. Whereas that tension headache, as I said earlier, is kind of that tight band. Things like a raised intracranial pressure headache can be sort of dull and vague and nondescript all over the head, with people just feeling very tired and unwell with it. And with meningitis is the same. It can be sort of a more non-specific headache, but again, just feeling very unwell and obviously being very severe. And then we're thinking about, does the pain move anywhere else? So with pain moving down the neck, or a stiff neck, that's a really important question to ask. We'll be thinking about sort of meningitis or meningism. Obviously, that can also be due to things like a cervicogenic headache, which is, again, just a headache that comes from sort of a bad back and neck. Just, again, slightly less common types of headaches. But things like a cluster headache, often people feel like it's stabbing or sharp behind the eyes and behind the face, with tension headaches not normally radiating, normally staying mainly at the front of the head. I've already mentioned the timing of a number of these types of headaches. So how has it changed over time and how is it getting on? Headaches that have been present for sort of more than 15 days out of the month, you can start to think about things like medication overuse headaches. Those are sort of dull tension type headaches, but they go on very long term. Other things to think about: if the headache is going on for a long period of time and there's no real cause, we're then thinking about red flag causes such as a tumor. Then some of our sort of exacerbating and relieving factors. Patients with, simple migraine or tension headache might find that sort of paracetamol, ibuprofen, and maybe some anti-sickness drugs, will make them feel a lot better, and that'll sort of clear up with that. The classic thing for a migraine is that it makes you feel like you want to lie down in a darkened room, with no noise, no sound, and no light, and that's typical of a migraine. Some more worrying things would be that it's actually worse when you're lying flat, when you're coughing, when you're straining or bending over. That'll be, again, things that are sort of to do with raised intracranial pressure. And again, that would make us quite worried about, tumor and malignancy. There can be obviously non-malignant causes of raised intracranial pressure, but I think it's important at this stage that we just think about, tumor as one of the main differentials there. And then we'll always ask the severity. So patients can give a whole number of scales, and that's just best to say, on the scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? And patients who've had things like a subarachnoid or those very severe types of headaches will say, it is the worst pain I've ever had in my life, and it came on all of a sudden. And again, that will make you suspicious. However, it is important to say that, the pain scores are very subjective and very personal, so it varies from patient to patient.
Yeah, so moving on to associated symptoms, we'll take it in a head-to-toe approach to make sure we don't miss anything. Starting with the head, you can think about the eyes. Is there any visual changes, any blurred vision, double vision, flashing lights, or tunnel vision, or even any pain in the eyes? Thinking about the mouth, have they had any difficulty speaking or finding the right words? You could also think about the ears. Is there any tinnitus or ringing in the ears, or any sudden loss of hearing in one side or both sides? Other things in the head you could think about is, has there been any fits, faints, or funny turns? So that's any seizures, any blackouts, or loss of consciousness. Moving down then, thinking about the mouth area or the stomach area, have they had any nausea or vomiting? That can be a very important sign in a headache history. Non-specifically in that area, jaw pain, and that can sometimes be associated with your temporal arteritis, or sometimes problems with the submandibular joint dysfunction can cause headache as well. Moving down then into the arms, is there any numbness, tingling, or loss of power? Moving down then to the legs, any loss of coordination, loss of balance, and things like that. Non-specifically, in women, you could think, is there a menstrual link, and do the headaches link with their periods at all? More systemically, you're thinking about things like fevers, weight loss or fatigue, and rashes and joint pain. Just to mention that our university was very conscious that we picked up on migraine with aura, particularly the aura diagnosis.
Yeah, so I think it's important just for what we quickly cover what actually aura is. So, it's kind of an abnormal disturbance in what you experience, and that'll usually come on just before a headache. Can also come on before things like a seizure, so it's important to keep it in mind in a neurology history. It can often be from things as simple as seeing a bit of disturbance in, bright lights and blobs, seeing zigzags across the eyes. Some people lose vision entirely in certain parts of their eyes. Things like being very sensitive to light and being very sensitive to sound. So that's why I find that, lying down in a darkened room is really helpful, because it makes me think, okay, about sound, about lights, feeling tired for some people. I think I just want to quickly mention as well, there are some really bizarre presentations of aura, and that can even be down to things like hemiparesis, so, feeling weak on one side of the body, or even complete loss of control of one side of the body. And, it's really important that we don't discount those sort of things as aura until they're proven otherwise, because they can also look like a stroke. And, I have seen patients within hospital who it's been unclear what's going on, but they have these sort of symptoms. And there is a real sort of way up between, is it a stroke for this patient, or is it sort of a paresis due to a migraine? So it can be a difficult symptom to tangle out, but often this aura will come on about an hour or so before the headache, and then that'll slowly build until the headache resolves.
Yeah, and I've been the same. I've seen patients on the wards think they've had a TIA or a mini stroke, and then they get diagnosed with migraine, and it can be very difficult to make that diagnosis. Also importantly, as you go through your years, it's important to pick up on that aura symptom, because that's a symptom that for young girls, if they're on the combined contraceptive pill, having a migraine with aura in particular makes that medication contraindicated. Moving on now to past medical history, you're going to be asking things like, have they previous history of having headache, and is it similar, or is this a new presentation? Do they have any previous diagnosis of any neurological conditions, things like epilepsy or strokes? Is there any recent trauma or any recent infections? And then other things like a malignancy history, have they any previous diagnosis of any cancers, or are they having any of those red flag symptoms? And Matthew's going to cover them, but are they having any weight loss, fevers, night sweats, and things like that? Drug history can be important for this. Are they on any regular medications? That includes over-the-counter prescriptions, because we know that you can get things like an overuse headache, as Matthew's mentioned before, and that's people who are overusing painkillers. Importantly as well, are they on any anticoagulants? Can be an important question. If they've got a red flag type of headache and you're suspecting a subarachnoid hemorrhage, make sure to ask, are they on any blood thinners? Or have they had any recent medication changes or started any new medications? Because headache can be a common side effect of a lot of medications.
Yeah, I think a good medication to mention there would be something like amlodipine, or any of those sort of vasodilating medications can give people quite bad headaches.
Absolutely.
Often headaches can also run in the family, so that's important to ask about. Do people in your family often get migraines? But then also, is there any history of strokes with the family, any history of epilepsy, or any history of aneurysms? Because again, they can be passed down within a family. And those are probably good to ask actually in all neurological histories. Very quickly, normal social history, smoking and alcohol are very important. Occupation can be quite important. Is there any triggers? Thinking about stress specifically. Are they having to take time off work because of it? And another very important aspect of kind of any neurological history will be the key question of, do you drive? This is not so relevant within this history, but if patients, bring up weakness, dizziness, numbness, difficulties with their vision, seizure, anything at all like that, driving could be impaired. So, it's a really good question, I think, just from early stages, just to stick in, do you drive at the moment, and is this impacting on your driving? Because we might need to think about informing the DVLA, things like that. I just want to quickly, as Peter was talking about, take us through a few red flags. We have actually covered most of them sort of throughout, but I think it's nice to have sort of a list of them in your head. So like Peter mentioned, fever, rash, night sweats. Or are we thinking about something like meningitis because of that? Are they immunocompromised? Symptoms like weight loss, change in their appetite. Is that more of a malignant cause? Is the headache worse with posture again? More of a malignant cause? Have they actually had seizures because of it? And if they've had seizures, then they really need to go to A&E or be seen at a first seizure clinic. A symptom that we actually haven't mentioned yet, but that's really important. And hopefully you would pick this up in the history, but has there actually been any head trauma? A classical presentation could be a patient who's had a knock on the head a week or two ago. They've now got a slow growing headache, and actually they have some form of bleed. Specifically with older patients, you can have subdurals that go on for a long time, like a chronic subdural, and that might just present with a headache. Very specific symptoms. I think Peter mentioned this earlier, but the temporal arteritis symptom, do they have any jaw claudication, difficulties with chewing? Or is there actually any pain over the forehead region? Again, that might come up more in your MCQs. And then the classic, the worst headache I've ever had that came on in, half a second or a second, felt like I was hitting the back of the head, and we're thinking about our subarachnoid. So that's just sort of a quick brief over all the things that we've talked about there.
I'd just like to touch on another diagnosis for you to be aware of, and that's idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or it might be known as benign intracranial hypertension. It's a diagnosis that's becoming more common because we know that obesity is increasing in the population, and it's very commonly associated with obesity. These patients will present with really debilitating headaches and chronic headaches. They may present with those sort of red flag signs of raised intracranial hypertension, such as people with cancer, and that's, those headaches worse when bending forward, worse lying down at night, waking them from sleep, or worse when coughing. I'd just like to say it's important not to dismiss these patients. We know that often people who have obesity can be dismissed. Although weight loss is a part of the treatment for this, it's important that you take these patients seriously and investigate them properly. Some investigations that might be done for these patients are CT or MRI scans. They may get diagnostic lumbar punctures, and then treatment for these patients is weight loss. They can be treated with medications like carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. That's acetazolamide. Other medications like topiramate, and they can be treated with steroids as well. More invasively, they can be treated with shunts, and that's usually a shunt that will run down from the brain and into the intestinal tract somewhere to get rid of some of that intracranial fluid. So yeah, that is a diagnosis that you more than likely will come across. First time I came across it, it was something that I had never heard of, so it's just important to be aware of it. And it can be a very tricky diagnosis to get, and it's usually a diagnosis of exclusion, really.
Yeah, and it's one that's going to be made by a neurologist, so it's not one that's jumping to your head initially, but if they've been quite fully investigated, it should be picked up at that stage, but it is something that will require some imaging or an LP and things like that.
Okay, brilliant. So now we're just going to move into a typical presenting complaint of a headache. And we're not going to do a full history, just run quickly through a presenting complaint.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. So, hello, my name is Matthew Pettigrew. I'm one of the resident doctors today in GP. Do you mind if I check your full name and age, please?
Hi, my name is Peter, and I'm a 30-year-old man.
Okay, Peter, do you mind telling me a bit about why you've come into the GP today?
Oh, I've just been getting a lot of headaches over the last couple of months.
Can you tell me a bit more about those headaches, Peter?
Yeah, they just seem to be coming and going, and they're really, really severe. Like, I have had to go off work when I get them.
Look, I'm really sorry to hear that, Peter. Do you mind if I ask you a couple specific questions about, the pain in the head?
Absolutely, yeah.
So where exactly are you getting the pain?
It's just one side. It's usually the left side.
And does it move anywhere from there?
Sort of, yeah, in the back of my eye.
Never down the back of the neck or anything?
No.
And when did you first notice, the first headache?
It was probably about 5 months ago.
Have you been having them ever since then?
Yeah, I've been having them every, 2 or 3 weeks since then.
And do you feel like you get relief from the headaches?
I do, but it takes a couple of hours.
And when the headaches start, how long does it sort of take for them to get to their worst point?
I'd say it comes on quite suddenly. I know I'm going to get the headache, but once it starts getting sore, it gets painful very, very quickly.
In any words that actually describe the pain in your head at the minute on the left side?
Like just a throbbing, very severe pain. I'm not sure.
And you've said that it makes you have to take time off work when you actually get it. And why is that?
It's just because I find the lights when I'm at work, I use a lot of computers, and I just need to go, sit in a dark room.
Do you find anything like medications, ibuprofen, paracetamol can actually help with the headache?
Not really.
And typically, how long do those headaches last for?
About 2 or 3 hours.
And anything you can specifically think that triggers them? You've mentioned sort of screens. Anything else?
No, not really.
And if you had to rate those headaches, 10 being the worst headache you've ever had, what would you sort of say?
I'd give it an 8.
And you've mentioned you can sort of feel the headache kind of coming on before it starts. Tell me what that feels like.
Hey, I just noticed I've got this weird change in my vision.
What does that look like for you, Peter?
Hey, it looks like a zigzag across my eyes, a flashing light.
And does that go away, or does that sort of permanent before the headache comes?
That is permanent for about an hour, and that's when I just know I have to try and maybe get home or get into a dark room, and then after an hour the headache starts. Then it's just severe.
Okay, Peter. I'm just going to run through a few questions. They might not be relevant to you, but I think it's important that I ask them. Do you ever had any sort of problems with dizziness or anything with a headache, or apart from that?
No.
Ever the headache being so severe that you'd actually need to vomit with it?
Feel sick, but never vomited.
Have you ever had any sort of pins and needles or tingling or numbness down in the hands or feet?
No.
Ever feel like you're actually getting weak because of the headache or generally?
No.
Any changes with sort of swallowing or anything?
No.
And I have to ask this, Peter, have you ever had a seizure?
I haven't.
Any fevers at all recently?
No.
Any sort of sweating at night or anything?
No.
Have you noticed a change in your weight at all, Peter?
No.
And I'm sure this has been difficult for you, Peter. How's your mood been with all this?
Yeah, I find it stressful. I don't know when they're going to come on. They come on very suddenly. And I work as a teacher, and it's just not ideal.
Look, I'm really sorry to hear that, Peter. Obviously, in actual history, I'd ask about, past medical history, family, social, and drug history. But I think we'll wrap that up there for today. Peter was telling me pretty much a very typical migraine history and a migraine with aura, and it sounds like actually a very severe migraine. So I just want to talk for like literally 1 minute just about sort of treatments that we might think for migraine, what patients might need, and how we might manage someone who comes in like this. So I think the first thing to say is that, Peter definitely needs to be taking some pain relief whenever these headaches come on. Paracetamol, ibuprofen, just anything over the counter normally. Some people actually do feel, because of the nausea, that they benefit from something like an antiemetic. That's any antiemetic that can be prescribed, by a GP. Sort of histamine antagonists or things like metoclopramide. Some patients will find, one that specifically works for them that they can take right before the headache comes on. Then, if it's getting more severe and it's becoming very debilitating, some patients can actually find that things like triptans, which are medications that actually can prevent the headache coming on, can be very useful just right before the headache starts, just to take, a triptan. And that can work very, very quickly. But normally, there's no other real management for headaches. If they're very severe, they could be referred on to a neurologist, someone with chronic headache. But often they're just managed, within primary care and things like that.
So, Matthew, would you fancy telling our listeners what actually is a migraine?
Yeah, and Peter, I think that's probably the hardest question you've asked me. There's a lot of sort of competing theories on what migraines are and why they come about. Are they to do with sort of different chemicals being released? But at the minute, one of the most prominent ones is that you're getting vasodilation in the arteries of the brain. That's causing sort of irritation, and that's giving you the headache, and that's why it's linked with things like calcium channel blockers, different medications that are vasodilators. The other thing to say is that, we just don't really know at the minute. It was previously thought that different types of foods and things would actually trigger migraines, but now, again, that's not really thought at the moment. It's just one of those things. Unfortunately, some people get them very commonly and find them very difficult to manage.
But yeah, would you still recommend patients would do like a headache diary and things like that to try and figure out if there's something causing it?
Yeah, I think a lot of GPs quite like the headache diary. See how it goes day to day for them. Is there specific foods or drinks or alcohol, things like that trigger it? And they try to cut those out throughout the day. Can we pinpoint anything? I think for a lot of patients, having really stressful situations, things like work, can really trigger their migraines. Being on screens all day, unfortunately, is just a part of everything. Being on your phone before bed, things like that, I'm sure none of them are helping and increasing the amount of migraines that we're having. I think that's sort of all that we wanted to chat about today. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.